Keller Williams Arizona Realty brings you Ignite session number 2, lead generation with Joe Quattrucci.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Jackie. Good morning to everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I'll give you a really quick overview of who I am. I grew up in Maine. Immediately following high school, I went into the Marine Corps for 10 years, spent 10 years on active duty, and then I got out because I wanted to pursue a career in real estate. And I didn't know what that looked like, so I decided I'm going to get my real estate license. I'm going to start selling houses. And that went very well the first year. And that very quickly led me into investing in some real estate. I bought and sold several investment properties back in Maine, and then that led me ultimately to the coaching program, which is what I really am passionate about, getting on and being able to pour ideas into you and help fulfill your dreams and your goals through providing you with the information and the knowledge that I've gained throughout my career so far. So I'm really looking forward to being here with you today. And without further ado, we're going to jump right into the content. The structure for today, if you're not familiar with it, is you're going to have me for 1 hour, so until 9:30. I'm going to cover some good content through the slideshow that I'm going to share with you right now, and then Jackie will take back over, and you'll jump into some actual action items and activities. Any questions before we get started? Questions, ideas, thoughts before we jump in? Feel free to either come off mute or use your chat box. All right. Let me go ahead and get in presenter view here. How's that look for everybody?
It looks good.
Thumbs up. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so we're Ignite Spark session number 2. Today's going to be about lead generation, the core of your business. The point of Ignite, or our goal for you here, is to be able to get your first appointment within the next 2 weeks and ultimately be able to get a signed client, your first signed client if you don't have one yet, within your first 30 days in real estate. And so you're going to hear us be very intentional about talking about those lead generation activities and how to produce the actual results. And that's what we're going to dive into today. The more that you can kind of conceptualize and understand the purpose in the big picture of lead generation, the easier it's going to be to execute on a daily basis because you kind of understand how it fits in to the whole scheme of things. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's start right off with what every real estate agent should be doing on a daily basis. So we've got kind of 2 different sides of the business here. Number 1, we want to grow our business. And then number 2, of course, we have to run our business. So growing our business includes, of course, lead generating for both buyers and sellers. Then we're going to go on buyer appointments and listing appointments so that we can convert those leads into clients. This is all growing our business, growing our pipeline. In addition to that, previewing real estate. Previewing real estate is super, super important because it gives you a pulse on your local market. And so when it gets to that time of pricing a listing or making an offer for a buyer, you're familiar with the inventory that's specific to your market. Understanding the inventory in your niche neighborhoods is something that you can only acquire by constantly being in the MLS and constantly previewing properties because, of course, it's always changing. As we're growing our business, of course, we have to run our business. So running the business includes things like marketing our listings, showing buyers properties that they may be interested in buying, transaction coordination, and of course, attending training much like this. Some of you may have heard in the past that Gary Keller says there's 5 things that every real estate agent should be doing every single day. And if you're not familiar with these, go ahead and write these down because in my opinion, it kind of summarizes this entire slide. So the 5 things that every real estate agent should be doing on a daily basis are as follows. Number 1, lead generation. And we're going to talk about that a lot today. Number 2 is lead follow-up. Now, lead follow-up is different than lead generation, and let me quickly explain why that is. Lead generation is, of course, generating new leads, new contact information of people that you don't know yet. Lead follow-up is the process of, quite literally, following up with those leads, not only until you get them to close on their first transaction with you, but then following up with them even after the first transaction for referrals and for their second deal and third deal. And this is where a customer of a lifetime comes into play. So we've got number 1, lead generate, number 2, lead follow up, number 3, go on appointments. So as you see on the grow your business side, that's exactly what it says. You need to go on listing appointments and you need to meet with buyers. After you've met with those clients, number 4 on your list is to negotiate contracts. That means negotiating contracts with both your clients to make them become a signed client, and of course, negotiating an actual purchase contract. So if it's an offer for a buyer or accepting an offer on a listing. So lead generate, lead follow up, go on appointments, negotiate offers, and then lastly, scripts and role play. Scripts and role play. And we're going to talk about that a little bit throughout today, but it's imperative for you to practice your scripts. Now, let me just say something about scripts really quick. I think sometimes we get a bad taste in our mouth about a script. It sounds salesy. It's not how I sound. It's not what I would say. And I get it. And I agree with you. And what I'm going to say is, I'm not the kind of person that thinks you should read a script from top to bottom in a real life scenario. However, I am the kind of person that thinks you should memorize it exactly the way it's written and then use your own personality in the flow of the conversation to incorporate bits of that script where they fit. And the only way you're going to be able to effectively do that is by first memorizing the script the way it's written. So don't try to get too creative right out of the gate. You really don't need to. Use the scripts that are provided, memorize them, and then be natural in your execution. Last thing I'll say on scripts, don't practice on a real life client, because if you mess it up on a real life client because you haven't practiced, that could be a $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 mess up. Practice with each other. We've got, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 people on this call. There are other people in your market center, maybe even if they're not on your team per se. We're all at Keller Williams. We're all on a team. Find somebody to practice with, and maybe it's just twice a week for 10 minutes. Hey, I'm going to call Jackie every Tuesday at 7 a.m., and I'm just going to go straight into my script. Hey, Jackie, this is Joe over at Keller Williams Realty. Did I catch you at a good time? Blah, 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 blah. And just practice. I think I've said enough on that. I know I talk fast, so are there any questions? I'm going to stop every so often, and I'm going to start asking you questions. But if you have anything, yeah, what do we think so far? Do we have any questions or ideas so far?
I have a question. Hopefully my background's not loud. I'm driving. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So do I need both? When I'm working with a buyer, do I need both of the documents signed, the real estate agency disclosure and election, and the other one that basically sets like the time frame? Because yesterday I got the one I just mentioned signed, but not the second. Is that enough?
Jackie, do you know what she's asking?
Yeah, is it enough legally? Yes. However, in a court of law, if someone were to come back, Jennifer, and say that you really weren't working with them, and that one piece of paper isn't going to stand up. So getting the buyer brokerage, the 3-pager signed to really cement them to you is really important. So
this is just to show homes. I'm showing him some properties on Tuesday. Should I still submit the one that you're referring to as well?
yes, so that you don't have to explain that and do that further down the line. And if you want, I can chat about this with you a little bit later, so Joe can continue with the lead gen, but my short answer is yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Great,
Okay.
Great question. If you're taking notes, let me just run through those 5 activities really quick one more time. Lead gen, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, scripts, and role play. That is Gary Keller's definition of a real estate agent's daily activities. So here we go. We're going to move right along. Today we're going to focus on lead generation. And we'll start with the lead generation model. So has anybody seen this graphic yet? It's relatively new. I'd say probably within the last 6 to 8 months, this new graphic was released. Somebody come off mute and just kind of tell me, what does this graphic indicate to you? What do you think it means? How do you interpret this as a business owner? Does anybody want to come off and interpret this graphic? No right or wrong answers. What do you see? What do you think?
You always need to be adding to your funnel. Otherwise, you'll stop having things come out the other end of the funnel.
Yeah, that's perfect. You've got to add to the top of the funnel in order for anything to come out at the bottom of the funnel. And what's ultimately the bottom of that funnel?
Closing.
Yeah, right, Chris. Closings, commission, right? Money. We love to help people, and that's certainly a big part of our job, but let's make no mistake about it. We're all in this business to make money. So you prospect, you fill your funnel from the top, they filter down through the different levels, and the end result is commission in your pocket. That's number 8, close. So understanding this visual graphic will help you kind of understand the different segments that a buyer or a seller flow through your business. And so, of course, it starts with marketing and prospecting up top. You capture the lead, and then they continue to flow through. What I want you to understand is that every client that you're going to work with is going to go through this funnel at a different velocity, on a different timeline, meaning that you may prospect and market, for example, at an open house, and you may find a buyer that's ready to rock and roll this week. They need to buy a home. And so they're going to go through this funnel within a week or two, right? Or maybe 3 weeks. Then you're going to be prospecting and marketing, and you may come across leads that aren't even thinking about selling or buying, or maybe you're going to do it next year or in the next 2 years. And so they're going to remain in your funnel for the duration of that process. So just be okay with the fact that some people are going to go through this very, very quickly, and some people are going to go through this at a snail's pace, and that's okay. Because as long as you're filling your pipeline from the top, like was mentioned a second ago, then you'll have plenty of business so that the end result, number 8, commission, is enough to keep you surviving and thriving. All right. So let's dive into the funnel just a little bit more in depth. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's basically 3 columns: lead generate, database, and sales pipeline. Lead generation is a combination of prospecting and marketing. Who wants to, in a couple of sentences, explain the difference between prospecting and marketing?
I'll jump in a little bit. So in a nutshell, think about prospecting as actively going out and searching for leads, and marketing is a more passive game, almost waiting for leads to answer your ads or your mailers if you choose to do something in that approach. So prospecting, I look at it as actively pursuing, going out there, literally knocking on doors, making calls, and marketing is more of a passive approach.
Yeah, that's nailed it, Jackie. God, you're good. That's exactly right. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's the difference between prospecting and marketing. All the leads that are generated through prospecting marketing get put into leads and contacts. So why is there a difference between leads and contacts? I'm not gonna let you guys off the hook too easy. Jackie, you're on silent, you're on mute mode on this one. I'm gonna ask you guys again. The more you guys interact, the more you're gonna be able to take away from this lesson. So who wants to tell us all what they think the difference is between a lead and a contact? Because this is a very important thing to distinguish between.
I would definitely say a contact is, well, it's in the word. It's like once you make contact and you're actually able to get some attention from that lead, where a lead is more someone who's maybe expressed like interest from clicking a Facebook ad, but you haven't like got a hold of them, but they're still on your leads list.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Chris. Thanks so much. A lead is somebody that you're typically in one-way communication with, meaning that they've either clicked an ad or you've captured their information somewhere from somebody or something, some of your prospecting and marketing, you have their information, but it's really just one-way communication, meaning you're reaching out to them via phone call, email, direct message, all of our different smart plans that we'll talk about later, but they're not necessarily interacting with you yet. So they're a lead because it's somebody that you need to follow up with. However, it turns into a contact once you have that two-way communication, once you have that open dialogue. And this is important to distinguish between, because in command, you have the ability to filter between leads and contacts. And that's super important because we don't ever want to fill our database on the contact side with a bunch of leads because it becomes very confusing. So we actually keep them separate. And once you're in two-way communication, and once you are having that initial appointment, or you're setting up that meeting, they become a contact. Jackie, did I see some comments?
Yeah, we're good. I was answering some buyer brokerage
Perfect.
clarification.
I do have a question though, Joe.
Sure.
As I've gotten more and more involved in command, I know that you can mark people as leads. You can tag them as leads. And the general train of thought that I've heard around the office is to untag them as a lead as soon as possible. So that once you've followed up with them and gotten them on a plan, that way you're not like overwhelmed with leads. But I don't have enough information about it to know if that's really the best practice.
Great question. That's a really good question. So here's what I would say. When you're doing your activities, I would say that yes, once you get into that two-way dialogue, remove them from a lead to a contact with whatever appropriate tags your contacts have. For example, if they're a buyer lead and then you're in two-way communication with them, I would take the lead tag off. Now they're a contact, and I would add buyer, and I would put them on a smart plan that's different. See, we're going to talk here in just a second about different smart plans used for leads versus contacts. So I think maybe what you're hearing is you don't want to leave them on a lead smart plan once you're in communication with them, because it's not going to make sense anymore, right? Once they agree to meet with you, or after you've met with them and they're a contact, you want to change the smart plan, which changes how often you communicate, and it also changes what you communicate. You don't want to keep asking to set an appointment with somebody you've already set an appointment with. So you can remove the lead tag. And then when you get into your actual daily routine of lead generation, we said lead generate and lead follow-up are two different things. So lead generating would be calling all your lead generating would be calling all your leads, and lead follow-up would be calling all your contacts from your task list in command. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, a little bit.
So going off that, I know there's a section, there's a little button when you, I know when you are setting a new activity, or when you say that you've called them, there's a little checkbox down below that says made contact. And what Casey was saying is if you do that, if you hit that checkbox, then it won't bother them, and it won't add them to the smart plan where you're trying to like get to contact them. So I don't know if that checkbox, like that's what its only purpose is, but I know he definitely mentioned that if you use that checkbox, then it'll separate them like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that's exactly right, because you don't want that old smart plan to continue dripping on them, because they're going to realize they're just being bombarded with automatic emails.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So was there a follow-up question?
No, thank you.
Oh, okay. So leads and contacts, and we're going to manage all that in our database. Of course, our database is called Command, and we're going to jump into that here in just a little bit. Then you're going to cultivate those relationships, right? So interactive touch programs, which are the smart plans we've been referring to, and you're going to nurture those leads until they're qualified. So qualified would be a buyer has the ability to actually go and purchase a home, their credit score is good, they've been pre-qualified or pre-approved, or a seller is ready to sell. From there, you'll set the appointment. So make no mistake about it, all of our lead generation efforts are leading to an appointment. That's the purpose, that's the goal. Now, you're not necessarily pushing for an appointment with every person you talk to. Let me remind you of some quick numbers. If you don't know these numbers, go ahead and write them down. 6.4% of your database on average will close a home every year, meaning they will either buy or sell a home themselves every year. 6.4%. Meaning if you had 200 people in your database, What's the math there? 12.8. Did I do that right? Yeah, 12.8 people on average are going to buy or sell a home out of those 200. In addition to that, you can expect 10% referrals. Meaning if you have 200 people in your database, you can expect to get about 20 referrals that you can then go convert into clients. So I say that for a couple reasons. Number one, we need to understand that not everybody we're talking to needs to buy or sell a house. And I think sometimes agents as a whole, myself included, get caught in the trap of, well, I'm lead generating to set an appointment, so I must push for an appointment or push for a referral with everybody I talk to. That's actually not the case. What we're doing is we're building relationships by using Ford sandwich scripts. And if you're not sure what Ford is, follow up with me or Jackie after this call. The Ford sandwich scripts to ask them questions about their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams to nurture the relationship and cultivate it until they're ready to buy or sell, or until they have a referral for you. So again, about a total of 16% of your database is good for business every year. 84%, they're not yet. Until a life event happens. So when do people buy and sell houses? When life events happen. Some life events are planned. We're having a baby, we got engaged and we're getting married, etc. Some life events are unplanned. There was a death in the family, or lost my job, or I got a job promotion and I'm moving now to a different state. So some things are planned, some things are not planned. And as we cultivate these relationships, you start to find people that want to buy or sell real estate in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and you start filling this funnel with those leads. And you nurture them and you cultivate them utilizing command, staying in touch with them until they're ready to buy or sell.
If you guys joined us on Monday, we did a really cool activity where we looked at our phones and our contacts and scrolled all the way down to the bottom of our contacts to find out how many we had in our phone, and we multiplied it by that 6% to kind of find out how many. We did a little bit of math to find out how many transactions and how much money we could make if we really stayed in touch with all those contacts in our phone. So that video will be up shortly too.
Thank you, Jackie. You just said something super important that I want to make really clear to you guys. Putting the name in your database doesn't mean you're going to get 6.4% of them to close with you. You've got to put them in your database, then you've got to talk to them systematically in order to capture some of those names. All right, the third and final phase here is the actual sales pipeline itself. So after you've cultivated that relationship and set the appointment, they go in the sales pipeline. This is all managed right in command as well under opportunities. And they go from an appointment into an active client, meaning an active listing or a buyer who's looking at homes. Once they find something they like, they accept an offer and they go under contract. This is where the work really begins, right? You're now doing all your paperwork and compliance and research. And then of course, at closing, the client doesn't just go away. They go right back up into your sales pipeline for the next time they want to buy a house or an investment property, or they get a job transfer that's unexpected, or maybe they have a friend or relative that needs to buy a home and they were so happy with your communication that there's nobody else they would refer them to but to you. But they're only going to remember you if you stay in touch with them. I don't remember the exact stats, so don't call me on Facebook when I get this wrong, but it's something like 88% of people say that they would use the same real estate agent again, and like 20% or 10% actually do. It's not because they changed their mind, it's because they forgot who we were. And that's not meant to be mean. The reality is, if it's not a close friend or family member, you're simply helping them buy a home. We're not as important in their life as we feel like we want to be. And again, that's not meant to make you feel bad. Just understand that in 3 months after closing, they may not remember your name. And the only way they're going to remember your name is if you stay in touch with them. And we have smart plans for that tell you when to touch them and how to touch them. So that is the lead generation model. I've got this literally printed out sitting on my desk, taped to the wall, because it reminds me every day the flow of a lead through my sales pipeline, and it's super helpful. All right. So as it pertains to prospecting and marketing, I want to hear from some of you guys really quick. What are some of the things that you've been doing that have been working? And what do you think the highest achieving real estate agents do as far as prospecting and marketing goes to be successful? Let's dive into this a little bit more specifically, because this is where the whole funnel starts. And if you let me just say this, if you can see that this whole funnel is connected, right? And so if you forget about or miss or don't convert on any one of these sections, it affects your entire sales pipeline. So starting with the prospecting and marketing, what have we been doing that's working? What have we been doing that's not working? What do we see high achieving agents doing that we know will work?
What I've been doing that's working is open houses and actually getting someone to come into the open house. Because that way I'm getting that face-to-face contact and really learning all about what kind of home they want, so I can start helping them with that. What I've been doing that hasn't been working to feed the funnel is the Facebook leads. Most of mine, if not all, seem to the information isn't valid enough, like phone numbers or emails.
Okay.
So for me, it's open houses.
I love that. I appreciate you sharing that. And I totally agree with you that what I would recommend everybody to do in order is, number one, for lead generation, you definitely focus on your sphere of influence, the people you already know, your family, your friends. They're the most likely people to help you. And people like to do business with people that they know and trust. Think about yourself for a second. Would you rather do business with somebody that you knew or a total stranger? And of course, the answer would be, well, I'd typically rather do business with somebody that I already know and trust, because I can trust them with my best interest in mind, versus a complete stranger. They have no loyalty to me. So starting with our sphere of influence, because that is where a majority of your deals will come from your first year in the business. Now, some of you have out-of-state friends and out-of-state spheres of influence, and that's okay too, because guess what? We've got one of the largest referral networks on the planet, and that's also in command. We won't get into that today, but just understand that you can collect a 25% referral fee just for helping connect one of your family members or friends with a local KW agent in their market. So you can still offer a lot of value to people even if they're not in your actual city. So keep that in mind.
I think
I was going somewhere. Oh, go ahead.
oh, no, you had asked, what do you see high achieving agents doing? And I would say they're being very purposeful and consistent in their lead generation activities.
Tell me a little bit more about that. That's a great answer. I'd love to hear you elaborate a little bit.
Well, you can't just stop and start and, just lead generate here and there. You need to be consistent with it and make adjustments along the way. If you're not getting results from one thing, you need to stick with it long enough to determine that maybe it's not your jam, and then adjust and move to something different.
Totally agree. So you just touched on two really important points there. Number one, testing what's working and what's not working for you as an individual. And then number two, the consistency. I'd love to hear a few more thoughts of what advice or what suggestion would you give to somebody so that they can, and so that they do lead generate consistently and intentionally?
The first thing I would suggest is to get everybody into command as quickly as possible, without any thought or any bias as to relationship or whether they're going to do business or not, with a really specific deadline to complete that within 2 or 3 days. And then I would suggest getting them in a plan and getting tasks that show up for you each and every day, so that you don't have to sit there scratching your head wondering what you need to do that day.
Yeah,
and I think once you get into the system and start using it, you'll be more comfortable with who cares, I'm just throwing them on this plan, or I'm doing this, and you won't overanalyze your interaction with that person.
I love it.
I'm just speaking for a friend.
Yeah, that was like nuggets of gold right there. I feel like you should be teaching this class. That was a perfect explanation. You touched on everything from getting your contacts into command, getting them on a smart plan, and staying consistent with your activities around that. And Jackie wrote and it looks like a couple people wrote in the chat box there, time block it. And I know that you guys have heard this over and over and over again. And the reason you hear it so much is because it's true and because it works. If you put it on your calendar, specifically lead generation, it's going to hold you accountable to doing the activity every day at the same time, which starts to create a routine and a habit. And you also are more easy to protect that time and push away any distractions. I think you guys can probably all agree with me at this point that distractions and that emails and that phone calls kind of just filter in unexpectedly throughout the day. And if you let it, those things will pull you away from what you should be doing very, very quickly. And I've been guilty of this myself. Sometimes I find ways to act busy, even though I'm not really doing anything, right? I hope I'm not alone on this call with that. You know, I check my email 28 times in an hour because I'm looking for something to do. So I think that was a really good point you just brought up about having the tasks and using the smart plans in command will tell you what to do. Imagine this, guys. You're not there yet, but you will be very soon. You're adding your contacts to command, and you're putting them on smart plans, and you're setting follow-up tasks. Imagine in 30 days from now, all you have to do is log into command, click on the tasks button, and it tells you exactly who to call and why you're calling them, plus notes from your last interaction with them. And all you have to do is what you've already told yourself to do for that day. It becomes so almost like, I don't want to be insulted, it almost becomes mindless in a really great way. You don't have to think about who am I going to call today and what am I going to say. Now, to get to that point, you've got to build it up, right? So for the next 30 days, you should be aiming to add 10 new contacts every single day into your command that are well organized with tags and with notes and with follow-up tasks, so that every day you pop into command, you already know what to do. And now all you have to do is maintain those contacts and continue to feed the database with new leads as you get them. And your business becomes very, very systematic. What you do not want to do is randomly pick from your cell phone list who you're going to call today, because guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up calling the same people over and over. I've been there, guys. I've done that. I did that with my first cousin who was getting married and wanted to buy a house. And he was my first real lead. And I called this guy 3 times a week for like 3 months. He literally ghosted me. This is my own cousin. I was surprised to get an invitation to his wedding the next year. I was surprised. And this is because I, looking back, was pushing him so far away from me because I was harassing him. So don't do that. Put them on a smart plan and touch them when it makes sense to touch them. If I were in your shoes, prospecting is actively going out and getting clients. Marketing is the more passive approach they find you. If I were in your shoes, I would be focused on SOI first and foremost. Then, as I think Chris said, open houses. Incredible way. Who goes to open houses? People that are looking to buy a home and neighbors who are thinking about selling their home. Open houses are, in my opinion, one of the best ways that you should be building your sales pipeline. And you don't have to have a listing to do an open house. Find a KW listing in the market that you want to be in, approach that agent and say, this is my value proposition to get your listing sold. And here's what I'm going to do. 5 days before the open house, I'm going to create a social media marketing campaign. And I'm going to blast all over social media. In addition to that, I'm going to circle prospect the neighbors, and I'm going to call no less than 100 neighbors and invite them to the open house the week of. Then I'm going to get 5 or 10 open house signs from my incredible productivity coach, Jackie, and I'm going to set up those signs at strategic intersections to funnel passerbys to the open house. I'm also going to put balloons on those signs to attract people's attention. Then on the morning of, I'm going to go door knock 50 neighbors. Do you see how if you said something like that to a listing agent, they'd be like, okay, this person's got their stuff going on. They're not just going to put it on the MLS and hope for a turnout. they're going to go actively find people and drive them to the open house. So if you're going to approach a listing agent, present a value proposition. Set yourself apart from other agents by being prepared with what you're going to do to get the listing sold. The reality is, and we all kind of know this, your priority isn't to get the listing sold so much as it is to find unrepresented buyers and help them purchase a home, whether it's that listing or any other listing. Open houses are great. After that, I'm a big fan of social media. I don't think you should spend all your time on social media, but I think that direct messaging people is a great way to prospect if you don't have their contact information, or if it's somebody you haven't talked to in a while. Check out one of their posts or the recent stories and be like, oh, look, they just bought a new car. Hey, John, congrats on the new car. Really cool, man. How's work going? Did you see how I just Ford sandwiched them right away? Just jump into a Ford question. Can't believe it's been 2 years since we've talked, man. How you doing? How's your wife doing over at the hospital? Is she still working there? And what are they going to ask you? What are you up to these days? I'm in real estate. Funny you should ask. And it happens so organically. This is, again, why I say you don't need to script people to death. Just have a conversation with them. I'm a big fan of social media. And I would say along lines of social media, I've got a little bit of time here. Perception is reality. And what you put out into the world is what they're going to believe to be true. And I'm certainly not saying that you should lie. Never lie. That's unethical, and that's not how we roll. But I am saying that if you're actively posting about real estate, engaging topics, engaging your audience, and you're kind of creating yourself as a known presence in the local real estate community, they're going to see that every time they log in, and you're going to be top of their mind. And they're going to be like, wow, that Chris guy, he's clearly crushing it in real estate. People are attracted to success. People are attracted to hard workers. So use your growth and your milestones throughout real estate as an opportunity to share that progress with your audience. They want to see you succeed. I would be aiming to post on social media, I would say, honestly, between 5 to 6 times a week, almost every day. It doesn't necessarily have to be every single day, but it can't hurt. Especially those stories. You know how you guys can do those 24-hour stories? Really great way to stay top of mind because they go away after 24 hours. So that's all I'll say about social media. SOI, open houses, social media. And then for your rest of your prospecting and marketing, in the MREA, there's a list of 30 different things you can do to prospect and market. So be creative and test different things. And like somebody said earlier, I'm sorry, I forgot who it was, try it long enough to see if it's a good fit for you. Give it an honest chance. And if you decide that, hey, door knocking's not my jam, then just don't door knock. That's cool. But if you find out that door knocking is your jam because you're good face-to-face and you don't love picking up the phone as much as you love to be eye-to-eye with somebody, then make that your jam, right? And then build on top of that by going to networking events. And, well, you know, nowadays events are all Zoom. That's cool too. But you kind of get the point. If something's not working over a period of time, just scrap it. You don't have to have 30 different types of lead generation. In fact, I'd like you to focus on anywhere between 3 and 5 different levers. So SOI, open houses, social media, and then I'm going to call FSBOs, and I'm going to call pre-foreclosures or whatever. And just focus on those 5 for a little while and see how it goes.
Hey, Joe, I'm just going to jump in really fast. If anybody on here does not have a copy of the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and you'd like one, I have a PDF copy that I can send you. So just put your name and email in the chat box, and I'll make sure that I email it out to you this afternoon.
So this visual here is basically prospecting versus marketing, and we want to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced. Somebody tell me in their own words, what are you know, kind of just looking at what's on the screen right now, what do you think the value is or the benefits are to prospecting versus marketing? And you can use the chat box if you like. However, I'd love for somebody to come off mute and tell us.
The first thing that's coming to mind, I feel like prospecting is where you can use that Ford method and kind of personalize it, versus marketing is going to be an overall strategy as far as like who you're trying to target.
Absolutely. Yep. It's more personable when you're prospecting. For sure. It's more one-on-one and customized. That's great, Jennifer. Anybody else have thoughts?
prospecting, you're usually speaking to someone directly and it's harder for them to ignore you. Whereas if you're marketing, you're just throwing something out there that they can ignore or throw away.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. A couple examples of marketing would be, a marketing ad on social media, a direct mailer to their house, anything along those lines, putting a sign up, whether it's at a bus stop or, a billboard or whatever in a magazine. Those are all ideas of marketing. And you're absolutely right that people can just kind of ignore those. And obviously a vast majority of people do ignore those. Prospecting is you taking a proactive approach. Meaning you're going out there and getting after it. Now, this is obviously a little bit more time intensive because you are having more one-on-one conversations. The value is you typically get more immediate results because you're going out there, people are not ignoring you, and you're going and scouring the planet to find motivated buyers and sellers. Marketing is more long-term results. And it's money intensive. So honestly, for agents that are in their first and second year, I want to remind you, lead with revenue. And what I mean when I say lead with revenue is make some money before you start to spend too much money. The last thing you want to do is feel the pain of financial burden, because what's going to happen, or what could happen if you're kind of tight on cash and you're spending all your money on marketing, is you start to get a little desperate, and people start to sense that in your voice when you're talking to them. So you don't want to come off in that way at any time. So conserve your money right now until you start having some commission checks come in, and then allocate. Uh-oh.
I can hear you still.
Can you hear me, Jackie? I'm not.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah, you're good.
My screen just went black. Am I still on camera?
Yeah. Do you, now I think now you might be frozen. We'll give him a second. I'm going to have him, let's see. All good. Please. Thanks for being patient, you guys. Okay, I'm just texting him to try to help him out. So I'll kind of just jump in a little bit. I know he's got his screen share on, so I can't necessarily take over the slides. But just in terms of him talking about leading with, leading with revenue and the marketing and prospecting, what he was trying to get at is that you want to make sure that you're not spending money that you don't have on something that might not prove effective right away, right? The marketing is long-term results. So we're thinking in terms of kind of like if any of you out there, if any of you do farming as a part of your lead generation, where you're farming and working with a certain neighborhood, knocking on doors, typically, right, you're working with those people, and when you farm, you're like a farmer, you're planting a seed and you're giving it time, you're nurturing it, you're watering it, you're waiting for it to grow. And that's kind of how I think of marketing, like sending out mailers and things like that. Sorry, he's texting me back. Just came back on. Can you guys have just kind of share out together a little bit, those of you that do marketing, what kind of marketing you found effective, and a little bit more about prospecting. There we go. And then just come off. There we go. We're good, Joe.
Hey, so sorry. I literally have no idea what just happened.
That's okay. We kind of just talked a little bit. I just went into a little bit more like you were talking about the difference, making sure that they're not spending money they don't have on the marketing, and talking about it kind of in terms of long-term, almost like farming. And then we were gonna have a conversation as I was going to text you back. So you're good. You can jump back into where you were.
Okay, prospecting versus marketing. It sounds like you basically covered that. So there's the difference. Stay prospecting based and marketing enhanced. That's the big takeaway from this slide. Conserve your money, be proactive. Don't wait for the business to come to you. Rather go out there and find it.
This is Keith. Can I comment for just a second?
Yeah, please do, Keith.
I've been doing this for a few years, and I got a chance to work with one of our top producing agents who unfortunately has left the firm. But he's been doing it for like 35 years, and he moved into the Valley. He never spent one nickel in the last 7 years on marketing, not one. He even had the cards from the office, but was doing as much as 300,000 to 400,000 in GCI a year because he was prospecting. And so even Walt Dantley, who was one of the, I know for a number of years, he was the highest GCI guy in the state, not just with KW, but in the state, selling multi-million-dollar homes. He started out in open houses 7 days a week. That's how he started doing his work. And the people that I've known that are very successful get past the fear of whatever it may be, knocking on doors, making phone calls, but it just takes a passion and getting out there and taking the steps and doing it. You don't have to necessarily, I mean, it helps with all the other tools we've got, but you could literally take the phone book. If you called 100 people a day, 5 days a week, and learned your scripts, you could be making millions of dollars a year very quickly just by putting the effort and the passion and getting past the fear.
I love that, Keith. That's so great, and I completely agree with all of that. Let me ask you this, and just kind of to the crowd, let's address fear a little bit. And fear is not something to be ashamed of. We all have fear. Fear is an instinctive emotion, right? We all have fear. The question is, how do we overcome that fear as it pertains to real estate so that it doesn't hold us back? Who has some thoughts around fear? I think this is a good topic to kind of jump into for a second.
I have something to say.
Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
For me, it's how I start my morning. So I know recently we started the Miracle Morning, and that was something that I've been doing as far as like meditating and affirming. Like I have to constantly remind myself of my capabilities. I have the ability, I have the passion, I have the talent, I have the resources, I have everything it takes to succeed. So I can't listen to that negative voice that wants to surface throughout the day. So really how I start my morning really helps me a lot.
I really love that. And thank you for sharing that. And let me just kind of add on to that, because what's actually happening when Jennifer wakes up and says all these, affirmations, and they're, who comes up with this stuff and why does it work? Well, here's why. There's two things that are really happening. Is what you're doing is you're priming your brain for the day. Tony Robbins talks about priming a lot. And basically the idea behind priming, and there's a ton of scientific proof behind this, is that priming your day basically sets up your brain and it prepares it for how it's going to make decisions subconsciously throughout the rest of your day. So if you wake up and you hear things and say things that are affirming and they're positive and they're empowering, you're literally going to perform at a higher level that day and make better decisions and take more action versus waking up begrudgingly, not being excited about the day, checking Facebook and being disappointed by how many likes you don't have, right? And then starting your day kind of moping around. That's priming your day in a very negative way. And so why the Miracle Morning works is because you're setting yourself up for success. Has anybody heard of PT FAR? I was talking to somebody last night about PT FAR, and I got so excited because I had this big aha in my brain. So PT FAR is an acronym, and it stands for programming is the P, and programming is our subconscious thoughts that you don't even really have control over and you don't even realize you're having, right? It's the connections that your brain is making subconsciously, meaning it's happening without your awareness. That subconscious programming leads to your conscious thoughts. Those conscious thoughts lead to the way you feel. For example, today I'm going to crush it, and I have energy today and passion, and I'm going to help somebody succeed. And those thoughts lead to the way you feel about your day. You primed yourself for the day, and that's going to affect the actions that you take and don't take. Those actions will lead to a result, right? I decided to get over my fear and pick up the phone. The result was I called 30 people and I got 4 referrals. And that result then reprograms your brain that, hey, this thing actually works. So then your thoughts are more positive, you're feeling good about lead generation, you take more action, and more results continue to come. That's a positive thought cycle. This can also happen on the negative side. So if you're convinced that you're not worthy, that you don't know enough to be successful, and that why would anybody start with you in real estate, that's going to affect the way you think, and it's going to affect the way you feel, and it's going to affect the action that you take. And even if you do pick up the phone, it's possible that you're just kind of going through the motions. So you got to get yourself out of that cycle. And the way that you break your cycle is by reprogramming your programming and your thoughts. And the way you reprogram yourself is by constantly reaffirming to yourself what you believe to be your best qualities. Affirmations work. And you may think this is kind of motivational mumbo jumbo, call it what you want. Affirmations work because you're quite literally taking control of your brain and programming it to believe and to behave the way you want it to.
One of my
Good.
fears is like thinking that I'm bothering people, like calling them and they don't really want me to call them.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I don't want to ask you to raise your hand, but I've definitely been in that boat too. Why do we think that sometimes we feel like we're bothering people? Let's dig a layer deeper on why do we feel like we're bothering people?
I think a lot of it comes from it being about us, that you're the one getting something out of the call, out of the relationship. I
Yeah.
think a lot of fear dissolves when you take yourself out of the equation. It's not about you. You're there for other people. It's your job. You help people. You're checking to see if people need help.
Yeah, that's perfect. One of the examples I heard a while back, maybe you guys have heard before, if you were walking down the street and there was somebody 10 yards in front of you and they dropped their wallet, would you have a hard time saying, "Excuse me, sir, you dropped your wallet," or "Excuse me, miss, you dropped a piece of paper"? Would you have a hard time doing that?
No.
Most people probably wouldn't, right? And the reason is because we don't mind interrupting people when we know it's something that's going to be valuable to them. Right? Of course, losing their wallet is bad. And so if we just interrupt their life for 5 seconds to say, "Hey, you dropped your wallet," we know that we're providing value to them. So I would almost go to the extent to say, if you feel like you're bothering people, perhaps it could be in part because you're not sure if you're adding enough value to them. And that goes along the lines of what was just said of, it's not about you, it's about them. And if you go into it with the mindset of, I need to make an appointment today so that I can get a commission check, that's going to be a very inauthentic conversation. And you're going to feel like you're bothering them. And it may not go the way you want it to. But if you can change your thought process just a little bit and think, how can I add value to this person today, whether it's real estate related or not? What should this person know that is real estate related that could add value to their life? How can I come from contribution and add so much value that I don't feel like I'm interrupting them, because it's almost my duty and obligation to tell them what I need to tell them to help them. If I can help this person save money today, if I can help this person prepare over the next year to buy their dream home with their new spouse and their upcoming baby, is that a way to add value? I would say that I think it is. So that's it comes back to your thoughts and the way that you're approaching the situation. I hate to keep quoting bold laws. I've done it like a million times, but change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And if you're not sure how to add value, then get with Jackie and say, how do I add value to a potential buyer? What do they want to know? The short answer is buyers want to know how to get prepared to buy and what is the listing inventory. Sellers want to know, what are the market conditions and how much can I get for my house, right? People in the middle maybe need to know about refinancing or different, COVID right now, how that's affecting real estate, investment opportunities, right? You can be a real estate advisor and a real estate consultant. I think the way that we talk about ourselves is super important. Do you consider yourself a realtor that collects a commission check? Or do you consider yourself a real estate consultant that helps people strategically make real estate decisions for the future of their family? And I think if you can adopt that line of thinking, you can find ways to come from value. Because today, I'm going to help somebody make a really strategic decision about real estate. Maybe it's not buying or selling. Maybe it is holding off. Maybe it's preparing. Whatever the case is, find a way to come from value. And that will definitely lessen the load or the burden of picking up the call and connecting with people. That was really good.
Love that. Love that. I just want to point out a couple things that came up in the chat box. Gigi shared fear, false evidence appearing real. She said David shared that with her and it's really helped. I think that's awesome. And then Christina shared, which I think this is really important because I definitely think you're not alone in this. She said, I think beating the feeling, of being defeated is harder than getting over fear. So making 20 calls, 19 no answers, and 1 getting yelled at, kind of getting over that fear. And maybe, you know, that's just about working on changing the mindset as it wasn't defeat, right? You made the calls and training our brain to think that our next one is going to be a yes.
I love that, Jackie, and I would love to expand on that because this is something I'm super passionate about. We talked at the beginning, and I very intentionally brought up the statistics that only 6.4% of your database are going to buy or sell a house this year. And so it's super important when we go into this that we understand not everybody needs to buy or sell a home. And it's not so much about the results right now as it is the activities. The reason why we say 10 a day, guys, this isn't just an arbitrary number that somebody came up with to add pain to your life. The reason why we say make 10 connections a day is because we know that statistically, averages, scientific mathematical equations tell us that if you can consistently do about 10 a day, you can consistently close 24 to 35 deals per year, which puts you well over $100,000. We know that mathematically. It's not about every call leading to a result, but rather you've got to get through enough no's to find the yes. And you've got to be able to hear no and not get the phone picked up on you to ever find that yes. And so going back to the way that you're thinking and the way that you're approaching a problem, is it a failure or is it a defeat if you call 20 people or 30 people and you don't get any answers, or you leave a couple of voicemails, or you only talk to 1 or 2 people and they're not interested in buying or selling? I say that's a win. I say that's a big win because you're 20 no's closer to a yes.
This is Keith. I have a comment. I think it's in a book called The Art of the Deal. One of the ways, and we all have that, the phone slammed in our ear, somebody yelling at us, and that will turn you off. But this was life-changing for me when they basically said the same types of statistics you're talking about. You sit down and figure out what the gross commission will be, divide by the number of phone calls, and in his case, he said it was like $75 per phone call that he makes is what that, even a no, somebody screams, yells, hollers, doesn't do anything, it's $50 to $75 every time you make a call. And when you get better and you're in the business longer, it's worth 100, 150, 200, 250 per call. So 900 no's and 10 yeses, you still may end up making that 150,000. So you know, not that you go out from the thing of I'm going to make money, but it helps you get through the concept of a no as a problem. No, I just made $75 in my pocket because the next one may make that $20,000 commission. So that's, I think, a mindset that really helps and takes care of. It's not about somebody upset with you. They just gave you $75 and thank you, and move on to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one.
That is awesome.
That is incredible. How can you celebrate your win every time you get a no? What can you do for yourself? How can you personally celebrate every time you get a no, every time you get a rejection, every time you get a phone hung up on you or a curse word yelled at you? How can you celebrate that and say, yes, just made $75. Can't wait. I think that's an incredible idea, Keith. I love it. It all starts up here, guys. And I know you've heard me say that a million times on this call, and it's absolutely true. Let's see. I've only got a few more minutes. I want to make sure I get through what I'm supposed to get through. One more thought on this fear, because this is important. Let me just help you make one more easy connection, silly example. Rejection, right? You're walking through the food court and Panda Express always has the guy out front, you know, before social distancing, that was handing out the little flavors of chicken, right? You go to Costco and they've got like little samples. If you're the person standing there handing out a tray of chicken and somebody passes you and says, no, thank you, are they saying that they're rejecting you as a person, or do they just not need the chicken right now because they just had lunch, or they're allergic to chicken, right? Or whatever the case. They're not rejecting you. They just don't need what you have right now. But when that unexpected life event happens, they're going to be so grateful that they remembered that you were in real estate. And they're going to be so grateful that you stayed in touch with them because now they know who to call. So it's not about you. Don't let people affect you personally. Don't give them that power to affect you that way, right? That's your choice on who affects you and how. Okay, moving right along. Geez, I'm only halfway through this, Jackie.
That's okay.
I'm long-winded. Most of this next stuff, guys, is actually the practical application of how to use command. And the plan is that Jackie's gonna go through some of this with you after this call right here. You're actually gonna jump into command and understand how to add contacts, tags, tasks, smart plans, etc. So Jackie's gonna guide you through that. So I'm gonna kind of jump ahead here. A lead, you have valid contact information. Again, one-way communication. Contact is you've got that interactive two-way communication and you're nurturing them until they're ready. Let's see, there are different smart plans. So we talked a little bit about why you would take somebody off of the lead category, and basically because it's a different type of smart plan, or why you might check that box, because we have different smart plans built that are designed to touch people at different durations and in different ways. So you don't necessarily even have to figure out how often do I contact people and what do I say, because Jackie's taking the liberty of building out some of these smart plans for you to just plug and play. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Use the smart plans that already exist the way that they were designed. And they move from, of course, leads. This example is a 19 touch program. You see it's a quarterly call, emails, newsletters, videos. Video is great right now, by the way. If you're not creating videos for your clients, start to. Start recording yourself. Even if you don't even ever publish the first couple that you record, just start recording yourself. Pick up your phone. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is Joe here. Just wanted to give you an update, and then go back and watch it and just get comfortable doing it. The only way you're going to get comfortable is to do it. And video is absolutely part of the future. So start getting into it if you haven't already. And then of course we have different smart plans for actual contacts. Managing your database, Jackie's going to jump into that with you.
Yeah, we did that on Monday. We talked about tags. So again, if you missed Monday, the videos will be published soon too. So you can always go back and review that as well.
Absolutely. This page says that you can, of course, customize and create your own smart plans. Again, don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. Use what's already given to you, and if you need to adapt it, you can make adjustments, but just go ahead and plug in what's already created. The sales pipeline, we talked about a little bit earlier. That's the transition from the appointment to the active client. This is one of the places that you must convert. And what I mean by convert is take them from somebody that you're cultivating and turning them into a client. And the way that you're able to convert at the highest level possible is by practicing your presentation. Whether it's the buyer presentation or the listing presentation, you've got to first have the presentation built, which means have a listing packet and a buyer packet. Again, Jackie's taken the liberty to create that for you in a very easy, editable version. Meaning she'll send it to you, you put your you put your headshot in there with your contact information and you're ready to go. Practice giving that presentation. Practice giving it to your spouse or to your kids or to a family member or to another KW agent and say, you know what, I just need to give this presentation 50 times before I really get confident with it. Give it to yourself. Do it. You can record yourself. You can do it in the mirror. You can just give it out loud to nobody, right? Amateurs practice to get it right. The pros practice until they cannot get it wrong. So how much do you have to practice until you don't get it wrong? Until you nail the presentation every time. And you have the scripts to overcome the objections that you will inevitably get. Clients have objections because an objection is just an unanswered question. The way that we overcome objections is by answering their questions using this presentation. The only way to convert a customer into a client is to have a presentation that wins them over. Some more stuff on smart plans, recaps, and ahas. This is so funny. Think, feel, act. What's the acronym? Somebody tell me what the acronym is.
P.
We talked about this a second ago. This is 3 out of the 5. PTFAR, right? Programming, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. Obviously, I got my head of myself. Okay, so what are some of our ahas so far? What made today hopefully worth the last 60 minutes of your time? What did you hear today that is something that you can take away and start implementing right away? this is where, as an instructor, I really hope there's an answer.
How about we're gonna get 3. We need 3 people.
So,
What I
get
took
over-
away from
Oh,
There
go
we
ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
what I took away from today that like I know that I can start implementing today that I wrote down is make a separate smart plan for the people that I have touched and that I've made contact with, and focus my lead gen more on people that already know me, because I've been pretty much doing it the other way around since I'm like kind of new to Arizona. So I just figured the people that know me don't live here, but I do see it's important. So those are 2 things I'm going to implement right away.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
And then mine was quit procrastinating and just get on the phone and make those phone calls or text those people, and don't worry about bothering them. Just
Yeah,
do it.
absolutely. I love that. One more.
My takeaway was changing the tag from lead to a contact. I don't think I've done that. So I want to really see how that changes the flow of my daily activity.
Yeah, managing that database, guys, at first when you're kind of getting familiar with command, let's be honest, it can feel like a burden. I will tell you that utilizing command at a high level will create so much leverage for your business. It will save you so much time in the long run. I highly, highly stress that you adopt it now, that you familiarize yourself, and that you utilize it now. Because as your database gets bigger and as you get busier with more deals, it's only going to get harder to try to figure out. So spend the time now when you're not super busy to really use it at a high level from the beginning, and never let go of that productive rhythm, that routine of your database. It's really good, really important.
That was Christina Zaha. She shared in the chat box to utilize smart plans and your life becomes easier.
Amen.
That's one thing that I would add. If you do struggle with issues of fear, implementing a smart plan will enable you to touch your database in a less intrusive way. Make an introduction with start sending a neighborhood update. Maybe they'll reach out to you or you can follow up with them. It's more organic. I think if you have trouble getting over that initial hurdle of picking up the phone, it's just one more step getting you more comfortable to doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On the screen right now, you guys are going to see the kind of the action items. And every day you want to be focused on talking to 10 people, whether it's in person, over the phone, text message, direct message, whatever other kind of messages the kids are using these days, right? Snapchat is an app that they're still using, right? So it doesn't matter the medium that you're communicating on, just communicating with 10 people. Obviously, we know in real estate that verbal and face-to-face communication has a higher conversion rate. However, be practical. Use your other resources, right? Utilize your social media, as we said, utilize your email, and make those 10 conversations every single day and add them to command. Build your database as big as possible. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent says that if you want to make $1 million in a single year, you need to get your database to the point where it has 2,000 people well organized and systematically touched. So I'm no math magician, but if I were to cut that number in half and say you could make $500,000 by getting to 1,000 people, you can make $250,000 by getting to 500 people. We all know 500 people. I know we all know 500 people. There's no way you've gotten through life this far without knowing 500 people, which means that you are already prepared to make $250,000 when you get those people on smart plans and they're systematically touched, nurtured, and cultivated into clients. I'm going to leave this for you, Jackie.
Yeah, we're all good. And actually, if you don't mind stopping your share, Joe, because I will pull up my command for smart plans. And I think it was still recording when you left before. So I think we're all good. Does anybody have any last minute questions or comments for Joe before he moves into the rest of his action items for his day? No. Well, thank you so much, Joe. That was awesome, and super valuable, and we really appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys all listening to me for the last hour. This has been a pleasure to talk to you guys. If you ever have any questions, I work right here in the Market Center. Feel free to pop in, ask questions. I kind of work behind the scenes, but I love this kind of stuff, so please don't hesitate to reach out. And Jackie, I'm going to attempt to leave here without closing the meeting.
Is that what you did before? You just left the room?
No, before my computer just turned black and I have no idea why, and then it came back on.
Okay, so before you do that, if for some reason, if Joe leaves, guys, and everything goes black, give it 1 minute and re-sign back in, and I'll have it pulled up because I'm going to talk about smart plans and also share with you some that I've created that I'm willing to give out. So if that happens, just log back in about a minute, same place.
So Jackie, the only option I see is end meeting, but I know that's not what I want.
When you go to bottom right, does it say leave meeting or it just says end?
It just says end meeting and then stop recording.
Okay.
Reactions, polling, participants. It may give me an option when I hit end meeting. I'm going to hit end meeting, guys, and like Jackie just said, you may get kicked out. But I'm going to go ahead and do this now.
I think you can.
Ooh, I can do it. I can leave meeting. When you click end meeting, it gives you the option to leave meeting.
Okay. Thanks.
Technology. Thanks, guys.
See you. All right. And we are still here and we're still recording. Awesome. Okay. In my screen, it just said Chris Miles is the host now. So if it turns over to you, Chris, I'm just kidding. I think we're fine. So you guys can all hear me, right? Still, okay. So I am going to share my screen and I'm going to actually jump into command. So we had been talking today, Joe had started talking about how to use smart plans effectively for your lead generation. So I'm going to show you, and I'm going to talk about this just so you guys know, it's a huge topic. So I'm going to talk about it today, and I'm also going to talk about it tomorrow, because I want you to know what's already available in Command, and then I want you to know a little bit more about how you can create your own. So as it's loading here, this little applet on the left with the notepad and little cog there, that's our Smart Plans applet. When you click on that, it's gonna open up the Smart Plans page. If you already have Smart Plans running, or if you've gotten hands-on and created your own, you're gonna see that when this blue line is highlighted under My Smart Plans, you're gonna have all of the ones that you have show up. So if you don't have anything there, don't panic. I'm going to show you where you can get them. I'm going to talk to you about how you can create them. So in this plan, when you see your plans, you can see right now I have 36 people in my database that are on the birthday smart plan. I have 48 people from our PCX team on a plan. Okay. And if you look, like you can create unlimited amount of smart plans for a variety of different people. You can create smart plans for your leads that come in off of a Facebook ad. You can create a smart plan for your SOI, which is your sphere of influence that Joe was referring to. You can create a smart plan for people that you've met through open houses. So we're going to take a few minutes to talk about that. In this section that's called library, if I click on library, these are the smart plans that Command has already built for you. So these are the ones that have been pre-built, okay, that you could literally choose just to add to anybody in your database. By looking at it, if you want to know what's included in, let's say, the monthly neighborhood step, you can go ahead and hit view steps and it will show you. It's going to send the email, it's going to delay for 30 days, and then it's going to send the neighborhood report every 30 days. So if you assign this monthly neighborhood nurture to somebody in your database, you're going to assign it and an email is going to be sent out every 30 days without you even having to think about it. With the neighborhood nurtures, you do have to make sure that there's a neighborhood assigned to your contact. Okay, and so I'm going to take a minute to make sure that you understand what that means, because there's a neighborhood, a monthly neighborhood nurture, and there's a bi-weekly neighborhood nurture. So that means you're touching somebody twice a month. So maybe you've talked to a buyer or even a seller that are looking to buy or sell within the next 6 to 8 months, and you're trying to send them information about the neighborhoods they're looking to move to or the neighborhood they live in so they can constantly be up to date on what's happening in the market around them, you might want to put them on a bi-monthly where they're getting this twice a month rather than once a month. Okay, that's the difference. But let me jump over to the contacts before I talk to you about how to actually use one of these and create. If you click on your contacts, if they don't have an address, so maybe this is also a great way for you to reach out to and have conversation. Hey, I was just updating my address book. I'd love to include, have your address. Are you still living at, are you still living in Scottsdale? Yeah, great. What's your address? Write it down so you can put it in command. If you're not sure, let's say you met somebody at an open house or they responded to a Facebook ad, so you might not have their address right away, you can assign the neighborhood that they were at. So the neighborhood that the open house was in, you can assign that so that they can see what's happening with other places in the area. So let's see. If I click on Adam here, and if Adam's one of my contacts and I have his address, you can see that his address is in here. So automatically command populated his neighborhood. Okay, so if I hit preview here, it's going to take me to the screen of what Adam would receive if he was on the monthly or bi-weekly neighborhood smart plan. So this is the preview. It shows his, this is the Edgewater neighborhood snapshot, and it's going to show him all the activity that's going on currently in his neighborhood. Okay, and I'll go all the way down so you can see that they can actually then reach out to you via this email that gets sent to them on this exact page. It's got your information on there so that they can contact you. Again, you're staying at top of mind by adding them to this smart plan. So I am going to go back. Sorry, my tabs kind of get smushed around here. Okay, let's say that you're working with somebody that you don't have their address for. So let's go back here. I'm going to pick somebody that I know doesn't have an address. And I just want to add them to a neighborhood. Okay, so you'll see he doesn't have a neighborhood. I'm going to use this add neighborhood. You could search for a neighborhood and see if it comes up. Like if I want to search DC Ranch, right? And you can see something did start to come up. So if this is what I'm looking for, I can actually search for a neighborhood and it will come up that way. If that's not the neighborhood that I want, okay, I can just hit the little X, take it off. I can choose find it on a map, and you could actually go in and you can type in the address, okay, and hit enter, and it will zero in on the map. And by using the zoom in, it'll take me now all the way where the pin is inside the neighborhood. I click on it, I save it, and now that's become his neighborhood. So that's what I'm talking about if you're hosting an open house and you don't have their address or etc. So now let's say I'm going to go back to this smart plan now. Okay, they've got their neighborhoods, and I want to use that neighborhood smart plan that has already been created. So what I need to do is, this is the command library here. So everybody has access to all of these. But now I need to bring it into my smart plans. So this is going to be true of any one that you guys pick. You have to choose add smart plan. Okay, I'm going to go down here. That one's already.
You already have that one added.
I was going to say that one's already been added. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to pick one so that you can see what happens. I'm going to add smart plan. When you choose add smart plan, it asks you to rename it. Okay, so they just want you to rename it to something else. So in this case, because I already had the other ones in my library, I chose promote my app, and I'm choosing Jackie's app. So I'm just renaming it and I'm hitting apply. So like you could see, I couldn't click on this one. Like Margaret said, it's because I've already done this and it's already in my smart plan. So you have to click on add smart plan and you have to rename it in order to move it over to your smart plan tab. So from here, I'm gonna go back to my smart plans. And now because I am a smart plan creating fiend, I'm gonna go all the way to the end of my smart plans and you'll see the one that I just added here was called Jackie's app. Okay, so, and this one, okay, you'll see, and I'm gonna do this for you. Jackie's app, okay, if I wanna add somebody to that smart plan, I can do this in one of two ways. So I'm gonna show you that. I can do it right from here by clicking that person with the plus sign, and I can search. I can search for a person, okay? And here's what I recommend you guys, especially if you haven't played around with this, always add yourself to a smart plan first to make sure that it's working or that you like it. So I could literally click myself, okay? And I could choose add to smart plan. It's gonna come up with two options because I just selected one person, and I'll show you the other thing in a minute. I can start the smart plan now, or I can choose to start the smart plan on a different date and choose the date that I want it to start. I want to start it now, so I'm going to confirm, and then I'm going to confirm one more time. This message comes up, which we'll dive a little bit deeper in just a minute, talking about a Twilio account, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But again, you're going to get this no matter what. You're going to just hit confirm again. Okay, so now I've been added to the smart plan, and that smart plan will start in effect today. Okay, so let's talk about the other way that you can do this so you can add it to more people. You could do that from here, okay, and you can select, this is why we were talking about the importance of tags the other day. If you go in and you choose a tag, so you kind of have to scroll down. Let's say I tagged everybody in my database all, because this is how I knew in my mind, if I wanted to add everybody in my database to a certain smart plan, I could just go to that tag all, and they're all going to show up that have that tag, okay? So you would, at this point, you can use this box and select all. Here's what I want to call your attention to. It selects 20 people because it will only show 20 people at a time, okay? And you're going to add them to the smart plan. They're already up here because they're selected. If I go to the next page, I'm gonna select all, and it's gonna add my next page. Here's what I will tell you. From this page, it only allows you to add 40 at a time. That's just something in command, that's what it is right now. Nothing we can change on our end. At that point, I would click add to smart plan. Here's what I want to show you when you're adding multiple people, which I think is amazing when it comes to, this is what makes the smart plans so awesome, and you don't have to think. Here's the caution. If I start everybody right now, that means tomorrow I'm going to wake up and 40 tasks are going to show up in my task list, and I might have a heart attack. Okay, if you choose everybody in your database and you start them all right now, and you have 1,000 people in your database, you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So we're not going to select start all now. We're not going to select start all on the following date. Instead, we're going to choose this stagger start. And this is amazing because what's going to happen is you're going to talk about how many contacts you want to make a day. And in Ignite, we talk about 10 a day, right? So the maximum people I want to show up in my task list from this smart plan are 10 a day. And I'm going to confirm that, and command automatically then will stagger this 10 people a day throughout the smart plan, so you don't become overwhelmed by the amount of people you have to contact, when one step of your smart plan might be send a text to or make a phone call to, right? So you would normally hit confirm and confirm again. I'm not going to do that because it's going to start a lot of people on a plan of mine. So in this case, I'm just hitting cancel so I can get out of that. Another place that you can do this, if you go to your contacts applet, this one I think we can kind of get away with adding 50 people at a time. So if you filter, if you've played with this before, you can filter out the people in your database by searching for that tag. Okay, same tag that I searched for before. I can search for the tag and then I can apply it, and it's going to filter out everybody in my database, and only the people with this tag are going to show up. So if you're doing an open house tag, then you could filter by open house, and only the people that were tagged open house are going to come up, and you can add them to your open house smart plan. Your Facebook ad tags would show up, and then you would add them to your Facebook follow-up smart plan. So I'm going to hit apply, and then everybody with the all tags, so you can see that, they're going to pop up. So here, instead of showing 1 out of 10, I'm going to go to the highest I can show on a page, which is 50. Okay. And then I'm going to come to this box in the left-hand corner of name, and I'm going to click it, and it's going to select all of the people on this page. I'm going to select a bulk action. Okay. You can see there are a lot of options here. I'm going to add to smart plan. So I click add to smart plan, and then you're going to choose, I think the one that I just added, right, was Jackie's app. So I can search that way, and I can hit select. Okay, and that same option comes up. Am I going to start it now, start on the following date, or am I going to stagger? And we're going to stagger at 10. Oops, not 40. Okay, so we would stagger at 10, and then we'd hit confirm. That's a basic rundown of how you can use the smart plans that are already there. I'm going to briefly review or talk about how to create one. And then tomorrow, you guys, I'm going to actually continue that step by step. I want to let you know that I do have a couple Facebook ad ones created that I've learned. If you guys know Nick Baldwin, he runs a Facebook page called Command Your Conversion. He puts up some amazing videos and content in terms of all different kinds of smart plans. So I have a couple of his Facebook ad smart plans already saved that you can copy and paste and create your own. I have a smart plan for talking to your sphere of influence in your database created, and I have an open house one created. It's something that I am more than willing to email to you guys after we talk about it tomorrow. Jennifer, sorry, were you jumping in there?
I think that's the one I used, right, to create my Facebook lead smart plan. And I have a question about that, because I'm noticing the way that you went over it right now, everything was created as a task compared to what his format was. Like some of them are actual email tasks. So does that mean that email is going to go out automatically? Because I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Because what if I did talk to that person, you know?
Yes. And that's a great question. So let me jump into that, because that's what I want to share about today. And then tomorrow we'll talk about how to create. But yes, you're exactly right. So if I'm in my smart plans and I want to create my own, so I'm like, I don't want to use the ones command made. I want to create my own, because I know how I want to talk to people. I know what I want it to say. I'm going to hit create, and I'm going to name this. So I'm just going to call it Test Ignite so that I don't get confused in my library, and I'm going to hit apply. So whatever you want to name it, put the name in, you hit apply, give it a minute to pull up the page, and let's talk about what this looks like, okay? And then tomorrow we'll dive deeper, because it's like one little step here at a time. On the right-hand side here, these are the action steps that you have choices out of when you're creating your own smart plan. The create a task button is going to show up as a task in your task list telling you what to do. So you might say, and I'm just going to show you, if I click on it, okay, here's what it looks like. Create a task, I have to call it something. So most likely our tasks are either going to be make a call, send a text, direct message, reach out on social media, send an email, right? All these options that are over here, but now I'm maybe creating it as a task. And the difference is kind of like Jennifer brought up, if I'm creating it as a task, it's something I have to physically do. If I'm choosing one of these that says send an SMS, send an email, that means Command is going to automatically send whatever you put in the plan under those items. It's going to automatically send it to your people. So we'll talk about what that looks like. For me, when I'm talking to my sphere, the smart plan that I've created is all created with tasks, because I don't want the people in my sphere, my friends, my family, getting an automated text from me that sounds robotic and generic. I want them getting a text or a call from me that's implementing that Ford concept. I want to say, if I'm going to say, you know, text Jennifer, and then in my description, this is just a reminder for me. So maybe I'm going to ask how, oh my gosh, the name of your dog is Johnson. Ask how Johnson is doing today. So Johnson, for those of you that don't know Jennifer, is Jennifer's dog. So I might reach out, kind of just put a reminder in there for me, and then underneath put Ford. Okay, so because this is going to be something that we can do, we can put it on a cycle, you guys. Once I set Jennifer on this, that I never have to set Jennifer on another smart plan if I don't want to, for as long as I live within Command. That's the cool part about this. So I'm kind of just putting Ford to remind myself that that's the, you know, that's how I'm going to reach out to her. I'm going to text her. And then I'm going to say, okay, that's the first one in my plan. So I want that to start on day one. Now, I'm not going to send her a text or call her every single day. So I need to set a delay in my smart plan. So I need to choose this hourglass, and I need to decide, okay, how many times am I going to talk to Jennifer? And in the smart plan that I'm going to share with you more tomorrow on in my sphere of influence, I'm touching my sphere of influence at least twice a month. One is an in-person kind of interaction. It's either a text, a phone call, we're meeting up for a coffee or, you know, a lunch, or it's a social media touch. And the other one is an email, perhaps. Okay, so I'm going to say 15 days later, I want her to have an email sent to her. Okay, so then I'm going to go back up and I'm going to create another task. And this task is going to be send email to, and you know what, I apologize because I forgot to do this up front. Send email to contact first name, contact last name, contact email. That way it'll show up that way for everybody that's added to this smart plan. So let me go back up here. I apologize. This task name should be text, contact first name, contact last name, contact phone number. Okay. And instead of personalizing it, I'm just going to put Ford, because I'm not going to just add Jennifer to this. I'm going to add all of my sphere to this. So I apologize. We want that to be generic. My first task is going to be text, contact first name, last name, phone number. I'm going to have a Ford conversation with that person. I'm going to delay it 15 days. My next task is going to be send an email. Okay. And then the email here, I have a couple things that I can share more with you. This might just be, you know, send monthly event email. We'll talk about how you can create bulk email smart plans to send out to people as well. So I don't want to get super overwhelming in this one session about smart plans, because there are so many layers to it. And then we would go on and we'd create more tasks, which again, I'm going to show you tomorrow. The difference between creating a task and, let me show you, if I send SMS, if I'm choosing that, that means I have my Twilio account connected, and Twilio is going to automatically send this text to anybody that I assign it to. So it says my Twilio account is connected. So whatever message I put here, I could say, hi, oops, can't see my screen. Hi, contact first name, how's your day? And you could see how like sending this to your sphere might be awkward, right? Because this is hard for me to think of a generic text that I'd want everybody that I know to receive, which is why I don't do it for my sphere. Does that make sense? Why I don't do the automated one to my sphere, guys?
The only one I can think of is like, how are you holding up during COVID? But even that would be inappropriate in some
Right.
circumstances.
Right. So here's what I could say. Hi, if I'm using this now for not my sphere, hi, so-and-so, thanks so much for stopping by my open house. You know, and then kind of creating, and I have one that I can show you so I can literally copy and paste, but thanks so much for stopping by my open house. What did you think? Would you like to go see any other homes this week? You know what I mean? That's something that we can make, the open house ones, the Facebook leads, we can make those ones generic. It just gets really like artificial when you're trying to do that to your sphere, which is why we create tasks when we create that kind of smart plan. Okay. So again, not to be super overwhelming, this is like our initial smart plan introduction. Tomorrow I will bring up and show you ones that I've created, and we'll talk about how you can copy and paste and use those in your business, including the one that I have for your sphere of influence. One last thing, not to complicate things, but this is something that was really cool that has been recently added that I'm not sure you guys know about because I just discovered it a few weeks ago. You can actually have an entire smart plan, and at the end of the smart plan, you can add them to another plan. So let's just say on the day that I wanted to send my sphere an email, I'm going to delete that. I'm going to remove it. So that little X, if you make a mistake or you decide you don't want something, you can just hit the X. If I decide that in 15 days, I want my sphere to get a monthly neighborhood nurture, I could add them to a smart plan. Oh, not sure where it's popping. Oh, it's, oops, I hit that twice. When you hit it once, it goes down to the bottom. As you'll see, I hit that twice because I was impatient. You can add them to another smart plan that you have, and you can literally sync it. So you can find, I'm never gonna find it right now, but you could find one, let's just say, okay, I'm putting a career night reminder in here. After this happens in 15 days, they're gonna go right to the smart plan and they're gonna follow that smart plan. So it was just a new feature that wasn't there a while ago that's now accessible to you guys. So I know that this was a lot, especially if you've never seen command or smart plans in general. Tomorrow I'll break it down deeper, and then even like the next day after we kind of break it down, then bring in the questions and let's really work through it together. Because once you take the time initially, yes, is it kind of time consuming to create a smart plan? Absolutely. But once it's there, it's literally like set it and forget it, and it comes up in your task list. So a little time consuming at the beginning, but again, I have ones that you can copy and paste from. A little time consuming there, but as soon as you set it and forget it, and as soon as you add somebody to your database, you just get in the habit of, okay, once they're in, I'm gonna add them to the smart plan. Once they're in, they get added to a smart plan, and your life becomes easier with your lead gen and your follow-up. Does that make sense? Just kind of like that introduction to smart plans. Okay.
Yes, it made sense.
Thank you. So last thing today, I know we have about 4 minutes left and I don't want to skip this one this time. We talked about this briefly, that our script practice usually in Ignite, right, we are scripting together, we're breaking off into partners and we're practicing. Again, I really, like Joe mentioned, that script practice and role play is one of the 5 things that Gary Keller says all successful agents do, and we need to time block for. So you guys really, really strongly encourage to find a script partner within Ignite or within our market center, or even just literally getting somebody at your house at least to listen to you, right? But in Ignite, we're going to focus on objection handlers. So the concept here, and for those of you that have been doing this, I want you guys to jump in. I'm going to bring up a new objection every day, and then somebody in the group is going to go through the process of handling the objection. So by doing that, we're going to acknowledge what our client has to say. So we're going to acknowledge the objection. We're going to isolate it. Other than blank, is there anything else that's keeping you from buying a house today? Other than blank, is there anything else from using me as your realtor? Other than blank, right? You're going to address it. And when you address it, that's really your opportunity to bring some information and education to your client. And then you're going to close. Okay, you're going to close for whatever, wherever they're kind of leading you to do. And I want to give this a whirl in our last few minutes here today. So our objection is you're working with a buyer, and the buyer says to you, well, you know, we don't know if it's really a good time to buy. Who knows what's going to happen? Who wants to take a shot at it? It's a safe place. There's no right or wrong answers. This is how we get better. Somebody unmute yourself. I know those of you guys in PC, we've been practicing in the mornings.
Let's see. I'm just gonna
Love it.
whatever comes to mind. No, I completely understand I completely hear what you're saying, that you might feel, especially with everything that's going on right now, that right now might not be a good time to buy. Is there a specific, did you mention a reason, isolate? Is there a specific reason that you feel that way? Right?
No, yeah, I'm going to answer you. I'm going to play it. No, I think with everything that's going on, I don't think that there are people buying homes right now. With all the financial situations that are going on.
Well, actually, I recently released a market update on Friday, and there's been a lot of activity, surprisingly, with buyers purchasing. Also because sellers are really serious. They're pricing their houses at more realistic prices right now. And also interest rates are pretty low for buyers. So for someone who is still employed, thankfully with everything that's going on, I think it's a great opportunity to keep an open mind and at least see what's out there. Is that something that you'd be okay doing?
Oh, I mean, I guess if you're saying that, you know, there's still action, I think I'd be open to it.
Yeah, specifically for the area that we're looking at or that you're looking at for yourself, I can always send you a quick report just to show you the activity over the week. So that is a smaller number to understand and really get a visual of the market activity in that area.
Oh, I definitely think that would be helpful.
Do you want me to keep going?
Good. Yeah.
That's all I got.
I love it. I appreciate you so much for jumping in. It's not comfortable, right?
No,
it's not comfortable jumping in, but this is part of the value of Ignite. You guys, no one's gonna, this is our support, right? This is where we practice. This is where it's okay to stumble, because like Joe said, we don't want to practice with a client. And I love how Jennifer really, she said she understood me. She really was like, okay, she did isolate it. And then she shared information, right? She didn't tell me I was right or wrong. She just delivered information to me. And then she asked me a question. I'm not sure if you caught that, but that's key. Really asking powerful questions to guide your buyer or seller in the direction, but ultimately letting them make the decision. You know, she said, I could send you information. Would you be okay with that? She put it back in my court, right? Here's what's going on. At no point did I feel pressured to buy. She didn't say, you know what, no, it really is a good time to buy. Here's why. She educated me. She said, actually, the sellers that are out there right now, they are serious and there is action. I just looked up the market report the other day and I'd love to share one with you that's more specific to the area that you're looking at. Would that be okay with you? So that's really what I want this to be. I want this to be a practice of, I'll bring an objection every day and we work through it together and we jump in and we share and go about hearing it, because the more people that share, the more things people are going to say that we're going to be like, oh my God, that was a great line, or that was a great piece of information that you can add to your arsenal that you can kind of keep back and stay educated on. So I appreciate you guys jumping in, and again, we are going to have more conversation about smart plans tomorrow, and really I'll take the smart plans conversation as long as it needs to go throughout the days till we get comfortable, and then I'll continue to add in more command stuff that I hope to be of value to you guys. Any last minute thoughts or questions or comments before we head off to complete the things on our success list today?
I was just curious for the smart plans. There's like a little preview button and it just kind of shows, I guess, what they would see. I'm seeing that I just don't know, like, if it's customizable, like what they see when they're getting the neighborhood snapshot, because it looks like right now they would just be receiving every house and every property that's for sale in that neighborhood, even if it's like, and I know a lot of those homes aren't what they said that they'd want.
Yeah, so when you do the neighborhood snapshot, you can't customize the actual homes that are sent in that snapshot, but then that leads to a really good conversation with them, Chris, to, you know what, I can set you up if you're, you know, as you're getting more serious about purchasing a home, I can set you up on a more specific search for you on the MLS that's more specific to the needs that you're looking for. This is going to give you the big picture. When you're ready to narrow it down and get closer to looking, I'm more than happy to set you up.
This video was brought to you by Keller Williams Arizona Realty TV. Please check out some of the other videos on our channel. Thank you.